everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Copper Jacket TV. So today we're going to be talking about a case currently sitting before the Supreme Court that has already been distributed for conference that could lead to national constitutional carry. There needs to be more people talking about this one. It's an important case called Wilson v. Hawaii. So let's get into it. Now, real quick before we get started, if you guys enjoy watching content like this or you get some value out of this video, consider hitting that subscribe button. It's free, it only takes a second, but it helps us out quite a bit. It helps us spread our message, and it lets the powers that be know that people want to watch this type of stuff. And again, that helps us stick around for a little bit longer, so thank you to everybody who subscribes. Don't forget to hit that little alarm bell that'll let you know when new videos come out, and a thumbs up is always appreciated. Okay, so let's go and talk about what's going on here. So first, obviously, probably best to get up to speed on what Wilson v. Hawaii is. So basically, we have a criminal case out of Hawaii, and Mr. Wilson was a guy who was hiking in Hawaii. He didn't have a permit, and he was carrying a pistol. Now, while he was carrying that pistol, he came in contact with law enforcement for various reasons. Basically, there was somebody who, I guess, spotted him on a trail cam or something like that, and decided to call law enforcement because he was on private property. Law enforcement shows up, and while he was there, Mr. Wilson says, hey, I have a firearm on me, but he doesn't have a permit. So he ends up getting arrested for not having a permit and carrying that firearm. Now, this all happens before Bruen. So at the time, the major case, the standard, was Heller. And so he argued under Heller that he had a constitutional right to carry that, even though he didn't have a permit. Now, the state of Hawaii basically tells them, too bad, you didn't have a permit, so you can't challenge the constitutionality of being able to carry that because you weren't following the law, you were violating the law, and so forth. Now, after all of this happens, the Bruen decision comes out. So, Mr. Wilson decides to file an appeal based on Bruen. Now, the Bruen decision said that we have a constitutional right to carry outside of the home for our own defense, our own individual defense. So based on Bruen, Mr. Wilson files an appeal with the state and gets part of his case dismissed. Now, the state doesn't like that very much, so they decide to file their own appeal up to the Hawaii Supreme Court, where the Hawaii Supreme Court reversed the dismissal. So the Hawaii Supreme Court, and again, I am drastically oversimplifying this so that you guys understand what's sitting before the Supreme Court, but the Hawaii Supreme Court basically says, hey, look, while you can challenge this on constitutional grounds, we think the Bruen decision was absolutely ridiculous. We don't like it because it doesn't allow us to balance state interest and public safety. We think that it's stupid, and you should see some of the stuff that they said, that it's stupid that we should go back and have to look at laws from 1791 when there were muskets and muzzleloaders and black powder and stuff like that. And basically, they just absolutely shredded the Supreme Court's Bruen decision in upholding Mr. Wilson's conviction. And so that kind of helps us in a way because it shows their absolute disdain for the Supreme Court's Bruen decision. Now, one really important thing to note here from the case documents is that at the time, the police chiefs of Hawaii issued 225 concealed carry permits to private security firms. Now, there were 14 private citizen applications, and of those 14 private citizen applications, zero of them were approved, which means basically nobody was allowed to conceal carry. Nobody was allowed to carry a firearm outside the home for their own defense, open or otherwise. And so that was basically it. There was no way for Mr. Wilson to be able to protect himself outside the home with a firearm like the Constitution and Bruen demand. And so, therefore, again, he is challenging its constitutionality. But that's really important to note, that nobody was able to get one. So that leads us to where we are today, with this case currently sitting before the Supreme Court. And like I said before, this case has already been distributed for conference. As a matter of fact, it's been distributed multiple times. But the good thing with that is that this case has not been denied. It hasn't been set back down. The Supreme Court has a big workload, and they've decided that they're going to push it to next conference. The next conference for this case is going to be on November 1st. So just in a matter of days, we should know whether or not the Supreme Court either A, pushes it off, B, denies it, or C, decides to take it, and we get to know what the Supreme Court thinks about somebody being prosecuted for carrying without a permit. Now, try and keep in mind that the Bruen decision wasn't perfect in any way, but the Bruen decision did say that we have an individual fundamental constitutional right to be able to carry outside of the home, right? So different from inside the home. This specified outside the home for our own defense. Now, if that is a constitutional right that we have, then a permit shouldn't get in the way of that right. A permit basically means that you have now taken a right from a right to a privilege. If it is a permit that can be issued or revoked by the government at any time, it's no longer a right. It's a privilege that's granted by the government, and that is something that the Supreme Court is going to have to wrestle with. So again, this is a very important case. I'm really excited to see what they do with it. Hopefully they decide to take it. Hopefully they don't send it back down, or put it on hold pending some other case. But I'm hoping they take this one and we get a good decision out of it, because if they just simply follow their own precedent, then we might see something major out of this. So again, this is Wilson v. Hawaii. I wanted to share that with you guys, and I want to thank you all very much for watching. Have a good one.